What's the worst scandal to happen at your school? The math teacher left his wife of 18 years for one of the graduating seniors. One year in exams days they were trying to add a new method to prevent cheating, where a man from the administration comes to every CL but before every exam and collects students' phones while sticking a sticker with the number on each phone and giving the same sticker to the student so he can get his phone after school without anyone taking someone else's phone that looks alike or something. This was working at first and a bit preventing cheating until one day some guy sneaked into our high school and came as the man who collects the phones while he wasn't. He stole the whole high school phones and went lol. The principal slept with a student and his nudes and sexts were leaked. People's willingness to voluntarily collect electronic receipts that incriminate them astounds me. It's a good thing, since it makes it easier to catch those cocky dumbasses. Freshman year, a junior accused the pet teacher of sexually assaulting her after hours in the locker room. He was put on leave and eventually got off on a technicality. Senior year, there was a freak snowstorm in April, during which the quietest and nicest stoner in our CL but went missing. A day later they found his car in a ditch, and a week later, when the snow melted, they found his body, head crashed down, in his presumed half state, gotten out to walk for help with no coat on. He eventually found a telephone pole and sat down against it to rest and was believed to have frozen to death in the storm. Seeing his mom at her only child's funeral still haunts me. My middle school banned hugging and hand holding during course changes because it blocked the hall. In protest all the 8th graders stood up and hugged each other during their lunch period. A bunch of students got detention. Made the cover of the Charlotte Observer. Edit. Thanks for the rewards all. I don't think I've gotten more than 100 likes or awards before, but please spend your money on other things. People are in need this holiday season. Dude. Everybody else talking about Pedersen murder and your big scandal as a big group hug. The most absurd part was that it made the cover of a pretty big newspaper. There was a kid whose girlfriend brought a knife into school and planned to kill herself in the bathroom. He knew her locker combination, so he took the knife and hid it in his so she wouldn't do it and wouldn't get busted. Someone snitched on him and he got expelled for having a knife on campus. Whole town was pissed. A male gym teacher diddled some girls volleyball players. Principal got fired for threatening teachers if they didn't produce enough A's and driving a grade inflation scandal. That and the usual drugs and such. The first kid sounds like a good guy. Didn't deserve that at all. Schools can be dumbasses sometimes I guess. Yeah. He just didn't want her to hurt herself. And if he'd reported her to the staff she would have been expelled. I get that rules are rules. But sometimes you've got to make exceptions. My English teacher in the 11th grade was sleeping with the whole girls basketball team in exchange for straight A's. I actually failed English that year, but when that made the news my school said I didn't have to go anymore because he wasn't doing the grading properly. Everyone who had his CL but got a B. A student that was in the grade above me, I was a senior. He had graduated, killed his girlfriend, and buried her by the train tracks right behind the school. A kid in my senior year short story CL but, who sat directly behind me, was charged with the stabbing, beheading and burning of one of his friends / drug dealer. I remember the day, like it was yesterday, sitting in my short story CL but when my teacher came in tears because she just heard the news. Students didn't find out about it until later. I actually have a friend who testified in his trial because he purchased the murdering materials at the hardware store she worked at. Crazy. Y, man. N. Did some googling. Is this in Michigan? Sure is. We had a computer teacher / football assistant coach who was just blasted all day. Had so many DUIs he had to get rides to work. But was the cousin of the superintendent, so he kept his job. Let's just say that when he crashed a student's car in the parking lot because he convinced them to let him borrow it, that was the beginning of the end of it. It was a small town. The scandal is that the super tried to cover it up by trying to convince the kid to take the heat for it. To no one's surprise, the kid was not convinced. They let him stay on as super for another 2 years. I would have taken a huge bribe, then reported them for both. The caretaker killed 2 local girls and hid them in the school. He tried using the clay kiln to burn them. He later dumped them a few miles away. What the duck one was this? I'm guessing Op is referring to the Soham murders? It happened in August 2002. Thankfully, the guy who did it is rotting in prison. In middle school, 8th grade/early 2000s, one of the hot girls sent a couple nude pictures to her BF, and it wasn't long until half the school had them. Police ended up becoming involved to make sure any old copies were destroyed. In high school there was a little scandal involving the teachers and a teachers club called the Hot Tub Club. Faculty members that had hot tubs would host a weekly hot tub party with other hot tub owners. Turns out they were all getting wasted and having a swinging party every Wednesday. Some badispaus found out about it, and there was a huge exodus of hot tub teachers my senior year. Edit. The main people involved with the photo were reprimanded but not charged. The girl had a sit down with a counselor to discuss what happened, and we all had a big assembly to discuss the consequences that could happen if people shared those kind of images. It scared a lot of kids straight. Nobody was fired from the school for being in the hot tub club. Teachers left because it was convenient timing with the opening of another high school, and there was constant babble about it. Just for clarity, this all happened in a small town in Western Canada. By the looks of my inbox, both are not uncommon occurrences. How do you even start a swingers club with your co-workers? How does that conversation even happen? Hey Jerry, I've seen you looking up my wife, and yours isn't too bad looking either. What say you, we do some swinging next Wednesday? Some highlights. 1. The chorus teacher got caught looking at Lalita porn on his school computer. 2. This kid had nudes of his ex that his friend sent to a bunch of people in school. But he was 18 and she was 14 or 15. So he got expelled, and I believe he was charged with distributing child pornography. We had a whole assembly because of it where the cops came and told us they could see everything on our phones. 3. A kid in my grade and another girl, same girl as in the story above, actually had sex in the bathroom. I learned about it from my band teacher. I was in 4th or 5th grade and someone sketched in the middle school bathroom not to go on school Friday or I will bang bang. This was then brought to the attention of the county and state police, and we didn't have school that day, and the police searched everyone's lockers for a firearm. Edit. This was in Pennsylvania. They were never caught, and I do not believe they found a weapon. This was also at Derry Area Middle School while I was at Grandview for elementary. The lunch lady was having sex with students and buying them alcohol. This happened at my high school as well. Lunch lady looked a lot like Tim Tebow. Our football defense coordinator molested/raped a large number of young boys over a long period of time, and no one did a thing about it. A girl in my middle school was telling people she had a hit list of people she was going to kill, got caught with the list, and was sent to a hospital for a while. She came back a few years later in high school. Edit. Seems like a lot of people had a similar occurrence in school. This was in Michigan. I also had a hit list in middle school because I was a dumbus. It was a group of about 30 guys that would come to school and play a kind of tag game. If you were tagged during the day, you were assassinated, and the game was over until the next day. My dumbud made a hit list with everyone's name on it. Needless to say, this alerted the principal. Edit. We got a talking to, but we weren't in serious trouble. We used to play a similar game using camera phones when they first came out. The kill was made by taking a photo without the victim being aware of it. Lots of us acting strangely in town, looking over shoulders and ducking behind parked cars. No list. But we were given a bit of a talking to as the college thought there was some intricate form of bullying going on. First week of high school. Pet class. The first section was swim. Wasn't my class, but the CL butterfly. This kid was playing a game with his friends in the water who could hold their breath the longest. He was going up for air and hit head on the pointy part of the gutter and never made it to the surface. Friends didn't notice. Teacher didn't notice. Eventually football players coming back to the locker rooms noticed. He ended up dying. Teacher was fired, although I wouldn't fully blame him as he was attending and teaching kids who didn't know how to swim or weren't strong swimmers. One adult for over 60 kids? Question mark, question mark, question mark? That's the school's fault. Probably the time a girl gave a guy a BJ in the bathroom. The guy filmed it and sent it to his friend. His friend sent all around the school. Eventually the police had to get involved because the one guy was guilty of distribution of child pornography. One of the students wrote his own fanfic with himself and some of the younger girls. Oh god. A girl at my school wrote a giant fanfiction in the Twilight universe where she replaced herself with Bella and placed all of the popular guys as a bunch of male characters in the story. It was incredibly cringy, and it made its way around the entire school. I can't imagine how devastating it must have been. It didn't help that she was morbidly obese and not very popular. I just groaned out loud. Poor girl. There's embarrassing and then there's humiliating. A teacher had an affair with the students. She was arrested and released on bail. Then a few days later she sent an email to other teachers saying it wasn't an affair, but that she was actually being raped by the student and blackmailed. She even attached screenshots of texts. Later that day, she murdered her husband and committed suicide. Edit. Whoa. This has really blown up. A few people have linked articles in the comments if you are curious. Holy fuck, that's a sad and wild story. History teacher disappeared in the night with the French teacher's wife, and the other French teacher made national news for sexually abusing boys. Well, French is the language of love. Yeah, I can imagine speaking French was a big part of the attraction. Probably lots of frenemies flirting, which led to more time spent together and eventually a full-on relationship. And the rest? Well, the rest is history. My department lead allowed the baseball team to line up, and she gave them all blowjobs. Happened years ago and confirmed by veteran coworkers I knew. Recently, some of the boys that graduated years ago decided to inform the proper authorities. She was transferred to another school, still works in the district. A overachieving student in my year went nuts and pooped in a bag in a teacher's classroom. She also thought she could run up trees. Turns out she didn't, end up skipping a few years and going to uni early like she was predicted to do. The balance of genius is on a very thin edge, or the pressure from her parents drove her mad. 2 teen pregnancies. Same dude. 2 teen pregnancies. No dude. My graphics teacher was married to my maths teacher, and one night he killed her during a domestic dispute. She was apparently having an affair and started taunting him about it in an argument while waving a fire poker at him. He grabbed it off her, hit her over the head and killed her. He was sent to prison for manslaughter, not murder, as the court accepted there was no premeditation. My mum was also a teacher at the school and friends with both of them, so it had a big impact on my family as well as the school. During middle school a few kids sold weed and someone that bought some smoked it in the building, which was just stupid. The kid that sold it to him didn't want to get in trouble, so he pulled the fire alarm, so people wouldn't find the kid. We all got to go home afterwards. Honestly, that's some pretty quick thinking. Obviously not very responsible, but the kid that pulled the fire alarm had some pretty sharp self-preservation instincts. Plus, if he got crap for pulling a false alarm, he can legitimately say that he saw smoke. Long story short, the principal got arrested for hiding cameras in the bathroom. This was back in elementary. He was a total ducking creep. My high school guidance counselor fucked a science teacher's wife and everyone knew about it. They got a divorce. Both teachers still work at the same school to this day, and students will never ever let it go. The story has been handed down from year to year. Kids are brutal. We must never let our history die, must we? A girl died in the pool during an event at the school. The swim teacher was blamed and was prosecuted. The girl who died was at my sister's class. Both were 7 at the time. That happened over 10 years ago, but the parents hadn't had another child since. She was their only kid. That's horrible. Poor people. Back in high school, the entire football team was almost expelled because one girl gave blowjobs to every single one of the players in the locker rooms. Supposedly they were all in a circle and the girl was just going around to each person. The kicker? The girl's brother was on the team, and he let it happen. Edit. Everyone's asking, but it's my understanding that the brother didn't partake in it, but he was effectively forcing her to not stop until she was done with everyone. The team ended up not getting in any major trouble, but the girl was suspended for a good minute. The Harlem Shake was a craze. We had an RE teacher who desperately enjoyed being the popular teacher, so he got in on the craze, invited 40 pupils from my year to his classroom at lunch, and filmed his own Harlem Shake video, which in itself would have been against safeguarding rules. Thing is, he also taught sex ed, so everyone got into his cupboard before the start of the video for props. The video was essentially a group of 14-year-olds throwing dildos and condoms around the room while he, of his own accord, grinded on life-size cute out of the Pope. He was suspended under investigation for half a year, but surprisingly kept his job. He was a lot more professional when he returned. A guy in year 10th made a statement that the more compact a group of people are, the higher the death toll would be in a shooting, and we were genuinely talking about shootings and somehow people mistook it that he was gonna do it. It was a joke and everyone was playing along at first. Cut to 11 months later, he was in year 11th. The whole school knows. Rumors got out. The truth was beyond ducking twisted and changed to something different. Kids were actually scared to come in. Parents were pissed. Teachers were anxious. They had to search the kid. They kicked him out 9 days before he finished for good. Was still allowed to do exams, but had to do separately from everyone else. The police were involved, and it made the news, but the news article is complete fake and bullshit. He also wasn't allowed to prom. This was around 4 to 5 years ago. He told me he was doing a lot better now. He went to a better school for 6th form. He says whilst he has moved on with his life, he will never forgive the bastards. Also, we live in England and guns are much harder to get, especially to the average person who knows nothing about how to get guns. Some dude with a tiny little pecker sent a picture of it, unsolicited, to a girl, and she sent it to all his friends. Wasn't long before like half the school had seen it. Wasn't long. I see what you did there. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.